Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back for a car ride review. And you know what we're about to review. It's been 1 week, ladies and gentlemen, 1 week to the day, maybe not the hour, but to the day, since Star Wars The Last Jedi hit theaters. Let's chit-chat about this movie. Now, I will tell you, for the first few minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, this will be spoiler-free. We're just going to gush over Star Wars. I will give you a heads up when I go spoilers, just because I know some people still haven't seen it. I work with a guy who's a big fan, and he hasn't seen it yet, so just people have, they have a lot of stuff to do. So, first part of this, Star Wars The Last Jedi will be spoiler-free, but I'll let you know, and then we'll get into the heavy-hitting spoilers. So, what did I think of Star Wars The Last Jedi? It was amazing. I mean, they're always gorgeous movies when they get into like outer space, and they do a lot of the ship battles and stuff like that. It was a really, really gorgeous movie. Loved all the characters, loved all the action sequences. There was some issues with pacing in a couple scenes, but it wasn't terrible. I didn't feel like the movie was I think it was like 2.5, almost 3 hours. I didn't feel like it was a 2.5 or almost 3 hour movie. When I say pacing issues, I mean it threw off the groove of the movie in a sense, because honestly, this movie was like wham bam from the scrawl. When it started with the Star Wars scrawl at the beginning, the movie just, it goes and goes and goes. So, it bounces from all the different scenes, and a couple of the scenes, they're kind of slower scenes, and they would put those in between some of the faster scenes, and so that kind of threw off the pacing a little bit of the movie. But again, it didn't feel like it was a super long movie in any sense. You've seen from the previews, we get Leia and Luke and Finn and Rey and Poe, Kylo Ren and Snoke and the Porgs, the evil-looking version of BB-8. His pop final's out, so we know we were getting him. I will tell you this, too, with the Porgs. I know a lot of people were concerned about it being like another Jar Jar Binks issue, which... Too many people hate on Jar Jar Binks, okay? I get your understanding of the character, but at the same time, just drop it. It's been years. Anyways, the Porgs were great. They were super cute. They were put in all the right places. And they were adorable. So, I know some people also had issues because this movie's got a lot of humor in it. Rian Johnson, I believe is the director's name. He added a lot of humor to this movie, and it's good for this movie, to be honest with you. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people were upset. They're like, that's not a Star Wars movie. Well, you know what? People have been complaining about the Star Wars movies being exact duplicates of each other. I mean, the complaint about Force Awakens was that Force Awakens was an exact replica of A New Hope. So Rian Johnson took this movie and he made a new Star Wars movie. He added humor, and he added emotions to some of these characters. And I'm going to tell you, some of these characters don't turn out the way you expect them to. I know there was a lot of, there's a lot of backstory to the Star Wars universe that Disney has completely decided isn't canon, and they've come out and said, okay, only these items are canon. And so there are some character arcs, some character changes that kind of throw people off. There's a side story that a lot of people are disappointed in because it didn't feel like it had completion. But to me, the side story did what it was supposed to do. And I'll explain that a little bit more when we start talking about spoilers. Beyond that, both my kids loved it. JJ loved it. My mom loved it. She's not even a big Star Wars fan. Kristen loved it too. Most of the people I've talked to have really loved it. Some people have got like mixed feelings, and I get that because they're such in-depth fans. So overall, this was a good movie. Star Wars The Last Jedi, worth to see in theaters. It's just breathtaking. I know there were a couple of times where I was like on the edge of my seat, just kind of leaning forward, really into the movie. I really love the story for this one. And, you know, you really see some good character development in a few of the characters. So that's what you're going to get spoiler free, ladies and gentlemen. From this point on, if you were worried about spoilers, if you haven't seen this movie, I suggest you turn this off, because we are about to spoil it from beginning to end. Again, spoiler alert for Star Wars The Last Jedi. In 5, in 4, in 3, in 2, in 1. But okay, that first scene when he gets the lightsaber and chunks it over the cliff, that was funny. Like, I don't know why so many people were upset. Like, I feel like if I was living the hermit life on some remoted planet, didn't want people to find me, and this chick shows up with my dad's lightsaber, who, for the most part, I was estranged from and had to save him from some evil dude, I'd chunk that crap over the cliff too. I'd be like, why are you bringing this back? Not only that, you know, when he saw that lightsaber, his first thought was, I lost my hand with that lightsaber. What? Like, that's got to be some bad memories. You don't know. I don't want it. So I get why he did that, and I think the director made a great choice doing that particular scene. I just thought it was hilarious. So, you know, then it dives into Luke and Rey and her wanting to be trained and him not wanting to do it simply because of what happened with Kylo, which they get into a little bit later in the movie. So we see them for a little bit. She sees Kylo a few times, which later we find out was all Snoke's doing, that he's been like mind linking them. So through the whole process of her training and then seeing Kylo and stuff, she tries to convert him. She thinks she can save him. She feels the conflict in him. You see her train with a lightsaber, and, you know, when Luke finally decides that he'll train her, when he realizes that maybe, you know, she has the gift, he puts her through this trial where she has to sit on a rock and kind of meditate and pull the Force. Which, by the way, he asked her what the Force was, and she's like, it's just a power where you can move some rocks around. You know, she was like mocking that whole, she wasn't mocking, like that was her understanding of it, but it was kind of like the movie's way of mocking that's all the Force has really been used for. So Luke has her tap into the Force, and in this area of the Jedi Temple, there's like an evil spot, you know, where kind of like the dark side lives. And she kind of dives headlong into it because, you know, she's looking for information about her parents. So, you know, once he sees her kind of really tap into her raw power, her raw potential, he basically tells her, you know, I've seen raw talent like this, raw power, and it didn't scare me enough last time. Well, it scares me now. Runs away from her at that point. Eventually he stumbles across her and Kylo Ren like in a mind link, and he sees Kylo, you know, and Kylo gives her the story of what happened, and he basically says that Luke came and tried to kill him in his sleep one night because he feared Kylo's power. Then finally Luke tells her, you know, that what happened was he did feel the dark side in Kylo, and he had a hesitation to kill Kylo to keep something bad from happening, and he stopped it. Like, he wasn't going to do anything. The way Kylo made it sound, he had already drawn his lightsaber and ignited it and was about to strike, and he was striking Kylo, and Kylo like defended himself. And the way Luke tells her, he's like, that's not what happened. You know, I went there, but then I stopped myself. But Ben woke up and saw me, and he could tell, you know, what I was there for, you know, and I tried to, you know, stop him, and that's how everything went down. He set fire to the temple and killed some followers and then took some other ones. So she heads off to she feels like she can save Kylo, so that's why she leaves, and so she heads off to save Kylo. During this whole time, the rebels, what's left of the rebels, you know, they're still running from for the First Order. And what happens is they can't outrun the rebels. Snoke's ship shows up. You know, they can't outrun it. Every time they jump into hyperspace, the ships end up finding a way to track them, and they can't figure out how they can track them. So eventually Finn and Rose, the maintenance, the little maintenance girl, she figures out how they're tracking them. And, you know, during one of the battle scenes, one of the very first battle scenes, the First Order destroys the bridge of the main rebel ship, and so Leia gets flung out into space, and you think she's going to die here, and I think a lot of people assume that would be where she dies in the movie because Carrie Fisher has passed in real life. So if that had been what happened, I think a lot of people would have been okay with it, and it would have been a good send-off, but that's not what happened. When the ship gets attacked, she's out floating in space, and all of a sudden she throws her hand out, and then she's basically launched towards the ship. So if you're not an in-depth Star Wars fan, in the old canon, she has the Force. And in, you know, the old movies, you know, they tell you that she's Luke's sister, so she has the abilities of the Force. But they don't ever hint in any of the movies that she's trained, where in the books, you know, Luke trains her a little bit. So to see her kind of basically force pull herself back onto the ship was a little weird, because you don't have any backstory on how she has to do that. It seems a little too coincidental, too fake, and almost superhero-ish. So I think that's what a lot of people may have an issue with. So she gets pulled back to the ship, but she's in like a coma state. She's unconscious. So they bring in this new leader. Oh, I cannot remember her name. I just looked at it. General Holo, I think. They put her in charge, and she's got this plan that they're basically gonna, you know, they can't outrun the ships because they keep tracking them through hyperspace. So she's gonna just stay they're a little bit faster than Snoke's ship and the battle cruisers. So she's going to stay as far ahead of them as she can till they run out of gas, basically. Till she can try and figure out a plan. Well, while all that goes on, then we get back to Poe and Finn and Rose, and they figured out how they're being tracked. And so through most of the story, you know, Leia at one point tells Poe, she's like, you're too aggressive. You don't think about the other people. You know, we lost 40 people killing this one ship, and you're not thinking about that. You know, you have to think about that if you want to be a good leader. So he ends up like basically mutinying and taking over the rebel ship from the new leader, trying to buy Finn and Rose time to go to this planet, get this code breaker, bring the code breaker back to Snoke's ship so that he can get them on the ship and they can disable where the ship is tracking their hyperspace jumps. So that's the side story that a lot of people are upset with, which was Rose and Finn. They felt it was pointless. They felt, you know, they felt like they could have done without it. And the thing is their whole side quest was to disable Snoke's ship ability to track their hyperspace. That was the point of their quest. Cinematically, the point of their quest was to fail so that Poe could learn. From that whole quest and their side story, this was so that Poe's character arc could be more developed, so he could learn a lesson and he could mature a little bit. So that was the whole point of Rose and Finn's side quest to the casino to find the code breaker. Because in the end, the code breaker betrays them to the First Order for money, and Rose and Finn's whole little side quest kind of goes kaput. So their scenes was cool because it got to see, like, you got to see that some of these people, like, profiteering off the war and stuff like that, they're not necessarily profiteering because of just the First Order. You know, the Codebreaker shows them that they're also selling the Rebel Alliance parts and stuff like that. So they're neutral. They're just there to make money. So it kind of puts into question who's the real bad guy of this entire story. It's a cute little story between them two, and it develops their little relationship. It definitely concretes that Poe and Finn won't have any kind of relationship because Rose and Finn kind of end up in this little, like, cutesy crush thing. So, come to find out, you know, Finn mutinies because the new leader won't tell him what's going on, and he thinks she's a traitor, and he thinks she's just basically getting him out there to get him killed. And come to find out, she's been prolonging and running as far away as she can so they could fuel all their escape pods to get to this planet that has an old rebel base on it, and from there they can send out a beacon. So he mutinies, and he's basically takes over the ship, and then about that time, you know, Leia wakes up, steps in the room, shoots him with a stun gun, and basically lets the general get back to doing what she was doing to begin with, which was trying to save the people. You know, Poe's thing was, let's make a stand, let's kill them all, but the thing is they're all gonna die with no sort of closure. You're just gonna get a bunch of people killed because he was too brass. So, so they start the escape while Rose and Finn are on Snoke's ship. Rey shows up, which they don't realize that. Rey goes on the Snoke ship to meet with Kylo. She meets with Kylo, and he basically takes her to Snoke. You find out that Snoke has been the one mind-linking them the whole time and letting her see Kylo's mixed emotions, and he's kind of been amplifying Kylo's mixed emotions so that she would come to Snoke. Because he was just trying to get her there to either kill her or turn her. So Snoke is torturing Rey. He's like, you got to turn to this side, and she refuses. So she refuses to join him. So Snoke's torturing her and basically holds her up, and he's like, you know, I can feel Kylo's thoughts. I know what he's doing. He's going to activate his lightsaber and kill his enemy. And about that time, basically, Kylo, Vader's saber is laying on Snoke's armchair. Kylo activates Vader's old saber and kills Snoke, which was kind of shocking because Snoke is this big bad entity that's out there. He was this big bad, like, shadowy figure in the last movie, and it just seems like he should be a lot more powerful, and he should have seen what Kylo was about to do if he could read Kylo's thoughts and stuff as well as he says he could. So that whole Snoke dying seemed a little put off to me. I didn't expect that to happen because I expected him to be this big, bad, powerful force. I'm expecting us to get a Snoke solo movie kind of explaining who he is and who he was and maybe why he was able to die so fast or so easily. So once he kills Snoke, then the guards that are surrounding Snoke, they are the Primordial, I can't remember how to pronounce it. They're the guards in red. They attack Kylo and Rey to kill them because Kylo killed Snoke. Rey and Kylo, you know, they defend themselves and they kill the guards. And then Kylo's like, it's time for you to join me. You know, we can rule the galaxy together. And she's like, no, you need to come to the dark side. So then they have like a force pull battle over Vader's old saber and basically break the blue lightsaber in half. You can see the crystal sitting in it and everything. So I'm hoping in the next movie we get a full-on scene of Rey building her own lightsaber. I mean, mountain shaking, pieces flying. You know, yeah, Luke built his own lightsaber in the first trilogy, but they didn't show it, and they haven't shown it at all in any of the movies. And I want a good scene of her building a lightsaber, and this puts us in that place. Plus, it gives her the chance to build a lightsaber that she likes and a lightsaber she's comfortable with. you know, because she's got a crystal. Now, normally when you build a lightsaber like that, the crystal that you're going to build your lightsaber with calls to you, like you go to this special Jedi place and that crystal calls to you. So she doesn't have that option as of right now. She may later. So while this is all going on, you know, the other ships are trying to escape. The First Order finds out that what's in the plot with the rebels, so they start shooting the ships out because the code breaker basically betrayed Finn and Rose. They start shooting the ships out of the sky. So the General I can't remember her name. She basically takes command of the rebel ship and turns it towards Snoke's ship to try and buy the rest of the rebels some time to get to the planet where the base is. So while that's going on, then BB-8 frees Finn and Rose from their captors, and then you get this cute little scene where BB-8 is riding one of the two-legged walkers shooting stuff, so he's like in control of it, and it's super funny. And then you get to see Finn fight Phasma, and quite frankly, Phasma gets screwed again. You have Gwendolyn Christie playing this captain of the stormtroopers, and I don't know. I mean, in the last one, she just gets chunked in a trash compactor. In this one, Finn beats her, and like you get to see like just her eye through the helmet because he hits her in the helmet with like one of those batons. But then she falls what you assume is to her death. I have a feeling they'll bring her back. But guys, come on, I need a better Phasma scene than this. You've got Gwendolyn Christie, who plays Brienne of Tarth. She's a great actress, and she's an imposing figure in that armor. She looks fierce. Come on, give me a better Phasma scene. I will say that. I feel like she's being taken out by this nobody. I get Finn gets out of situations a lot easier than he should be able to with as little training as he has, to be honest with you. I don't think Captain Phasma could have been beaten by Finn. So, anyways, beyond that, so Rose and BB-8 and Finn, they escape and they head towards the planet as well. Rey runs off with the pieces of the lightsaber and leaves Kylo where he's at. They crash the main rebel ship, you know, deflects long enough and saves Leia and Poe and stuff. Poe learns his lesson, you know, sometimes as a subordinate, you're not going to know everything. You've got to learn to respect people's lives. So his character really develops in that little short span. Then we see him get to this base on this planet, which is like covered in salt. So everywhere they step and everywhere they touch turns red. They send out the beacon to summon the rest of their, all their alliances. They're letting, General Leia's here. We're in trouble. Come save us. Nobody responds. Then we see, Kylo and General Hux show up on the planet. Because now Kylo's in charge, and basically Hux just does what he's told because he's afraid to die. So they show up with this like big cannon looking thing. It's like Death Star technology because the rebels think they're safe because they've got a giant blast door and it's the only way in or out of the base. So Kylo and Hux show up with some of those AT-ATs and then this giant cannon looking thing and some TIE fighters. The rebels go out to face them in these like crop duster looking ships. They're like rickety and old. They've been around and haven't been taken care of. The Rey and Chewie show up on the Millennium Falcon to deal with the TIE fighters so that those little ships can try and get to the blaster cannon thing to stop it from blowing a hole in the door. Finn is like, Poe's like, break off, we got to save people. This is where he shows his maturity from this movie. We got to break off. We can't get there in time. They're going to fire it. And Finn is just going to race towards it and try and destroy it. And Rose crashes her ship into Finn's ship to save his life. And then, so they fire it and they blow a hole in the blast door. And about that time, Luke shows up on this planet. So when Luke shows up, you know, he goes to Leia and he hands her the dice that Han kept around, kept in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. And he sees her and he talks to her for a few minutes. Basically, he goes out to face this entire army, all the AT-ATs and the cannon and Kylo and Hux. Now, as soon as it showed him, I knew something was off, so keep that in mind. His hair was shorter, he was a little more clean shaven, he looked a little younger, and then as he's walking out, when he walks out there, and basically Kylo's like, kill that man, and like all the AT-ATs and all the ships and stuff, they fire everything they have for like a good 2 minutes to where Luke was standing, and it hits and things explode, and then you see Luke step out and he kind of brushes off the dust off his shoulder and stuff, and then Kylo basically goes down to face Luke himself. So this whole time you're thinking, okay, Luke's a real big Jedi, he's awesome, he's deflected all those, he can't be killed. Kylo goes down to face him, and you know, they get into a lightsaber battle, and basically Luke, when he draws his sword, the lightsaber he lights up is Vader's old one. It's Anakin's lightsaber. So then again, I was like, something's wrong here, that's not the color of his lightsaber. And so they go to battle. Luke never really deflects or attacks. He just dodges everything. And then he basically tells Kylo, he's like, if you strike me down in anger, he's like, I'll be here always by your side. I'll be there to always watch you. I'll be there to always, you know, haunt you if you strike me down in anger. So he runs and basically slices through Luke, and then you find out Luke's not actually there, and that the reason he was there the whole time was so that the rebels could find a way out of the base. Even though there's no actual back entrance, you see Rey and Chewie flying over the base in the Millennium Falcon, and then she finds this giant rock slide, and the Foxes lead the rebels to the rock slide, and then Rey, you know, you see all the rebels coming out as Rey is moving the rocks away. And so, like, they see that, you know, Luke's not the only Jedi, Rey's got Jedi powers, and it gives them hope. Basically, she's the new hope. You know, Luke was the last Jedi in this movie, because the entire time he's training her and he's talking to her, he's talking about how the Jedi need to end, and he doesn't necessarily mean that the Force should stop or the Jedi should go away and the Sith have to go away. What he means is that the Jedi Order in its sense needs to change. It needs something different, and Rey is going to be that difference. So, so we go back to Luke and Kylo as he slices through Luke, and then Luke just kind of fades away, and you see Luke sitting at the Jedi Temple on that planet, like cross-legged, in the place where he had Rey trying to tap into the powers of the Force, and he crosses his legs again, he gets comfortable, and he stares out at the binary sunset, and then he just fades away. Luke Skywalker dies. Now, the thing about it is, up until Rey finds Luke, he had shut him off from the Force. He shut himself off from the Force. So he hasn't really been using any Force powers. He hasn't been doing any Force training, anything like that. So when he finally taps back into the Force, he draws up enough power from the Force to project his image across galaxies, billions and billions of light years. So not only did he tap into the Force after years of never touching it, he tapped into the Force and pulled a power so great into his body that it literally just wore him out physically. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like I don't get how he died or why he died. That's why, like, he literally pulled so much power into himself that once he exerted it, like, that was it. He was done. His body couldn't take it anymore. So now, you know, they hop in the Millennium Falcon, what's left of the rebels, and they fly off. Now, the spoiler scene that really I loved the most was the reason Luke went to help and did what he did was Yoda shows up, y'all, about 2 or 3 minutes after Rey leaves the planet. Ghost Yoda shows up and has a chit chat, and he basically schools Luke in the ways of the Force, basically telling him, Rey's got everything she needs to continue the Jedi Order. She saw the books, which you find out she stole the books, because these books that you see in the previews, they're like all the Jedi manuscripts. Well, when Yoda shows up, Luke is going to set fire to the tree that houses the books with all the training material. Well, Yoda ends up setting the tree on fire by calling down lightning on it and just demolishes the tree. So then you find out later Rey actually stole the books before she left. But man, like, you see Luke walking to burn this tree down, and all of a sudden you see these pointy, like, green ears, and they're kind of translucent. They're kind of translucent, and like, the second you see the point, you're like, that's Yoda. So Yoda shows up in like just old school Skywalker, it was great, y'all. It was cool to see Yoda in this movie. They did such a good job keeping that out of the previews that when it showed up, like, I got all excited and giddy. I was like, how cool is this? Yoda's in this one. So I have a feeling that Luke's going to end up being a ghost Jedi, and he's going to go and help Rey train. I also think, because there's a very end scene when Rose and Finn are on the planet, some of the slave kids help them escape, and Rose gives one of the kids her ring that when you press the button, it shows she's a part of the Rebel Alliance. So the very last scene of this movie is this little boy going out to sweep. He doesn't touch the broom. He doesn't kick the broom or anything. He sticks his hand out like towards the broom, and it leaps to him. This little boy's got Jedi powers. I don't know if a lot of people saw that happen, but I asked my wife, I was like, did you see that? She's like, yeah, he didn't touch it. It came to him like he used the Force. And I asked a couple other people who saw it, and they said the same thing. So I'm going to go see the movie again. I'm going to specifically pay attention to that part. But that's the whole point of this movie's title, The Last Jedi. So the Force awoke in Rey. Luke was the last Jedi, because now that the Force has been reawakened in Rey, the Jedi Order is going to change. She's going to have to find a better way to train people to keep them from wanting to turn to the dark side. So this movie set that up. I can't wait to see the next one. I don't know what J.J. Abrams is going to do with the next movie, but I'm super excited to see it happen. You guys, this was such a good movie. All the people out there hating on it because it's not a Star Wars movie, or they're the same people that hated on it because the last movie was so much like A New Hope. You gotta, come on, just enjoy these movies. They're beautifully done. They're amazing movies. The acting's good. Rey is a great, strong character. Finn's a cool character. Poe's a cool character. I'm not really sure now that Carrie Fisher has passed away, because she didn't die in Last Jedi. So I have a feeling that the next movie is going to take place a few years down the road, or 10 years down the road, to kind of give Rey time to train and to kind of like explain why Leia's not in the next movie. But I don't know. We'll see. I know this is the longest car ride review I've done, but I love this movie. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I'm totally into this movie, and I basically just told you everything that happens in the movie. So hopefully you've already seen it, and you kind of get my opinions on it. The Rose and Finn storyline was important because it helped not only for Poe to mature, but it also gave us a little insight into the next Jedis. And then you got the Yoda scene, and he basically just, he's like, Luke, you're being a jerk. Your whole idea to become a hermit and do what you did was stupid. So yeah, that was awesome. Kylo's character really kind of like comes full force in this one. I was a little bummed that they killed Snoke so soon without any kind of backstory. They did answer Rey's parentage in this movie. Basically, her parents are nobodies, and I love that. I love that she doesn't come from some ancient bloodline or some specific bloodline, because it lets her be her, and it lets them develop her the way they want to, and she doesn't have any mold to hold into, so you don't know the extent of her powers or where her powers come from. I mean, Anakin was a nobody too. He was just a little slave kid. So I like that idea, and I think they did a good job with that. So I'm excited. Hopefully we'll get a Snoke movie just so we can kind of see who he is and where he comes from. And again, I can't wait for the next movie. Next year we're getting the Han Solo movie, which I think is super cool. But yeah, other than that, guys, it was great. It was a good movie. I suggest you go see it while it's in theaters. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys enjoyed this movie review. Let me know what you thought of Star Wars The Last Jedi. Let me know if you loved it, if you hated it, why you hated it, why you loved it. Ladies and gentlemen, I love you guys. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you see when my new videos come out. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, or a thumbs down if you didn't. But if nothing else, leave me a comment about the movie and what you thought. Love you guys. Till tomorrow.